We're here at the Green Door Tavern in River North with Keith Giles and David Chase to talk about the West Loop and the South Loop. Potential for appreciation in the South Loop versus the West Loop. What do you think?
Well, I don't really track appreciation in the West Loop, but I can only talk past rather than... in the past, I think we've had, major jumps in price points and price per square foot and all of the product types. And the reason for that, again, it's a more balanced neighborhood. I mean, we used to hope for a certain type of group that was going to come to the South Loop, and that was, again, the eclectic kind of pioneering group, and that gradually changed as more density came in and more retail came in, and that's continued to be the case, and it's now much more of a mainstream crowd, although it is racially integrated, socially integrated, and there's price points from, $300,000 on up, really $250,000 on up to as much as you want to spend. And I think as long as that trend continues, and it doesn't appear that it's stopping, at least right now, I think that appreciation in the future will be solid. I don't think it's going to be, as David said, like it was in the early years. Those people took risks, we took risks, and they were rewarded. But I think we're still significantly below the north side prices. I mean, we're in the $500 range for XO, for example, and the I don't know how I pronounce that properly. If the Spire gets built, right. I mean, they're well over $1,000 a square foot. There's a lot of product in Streeterville that's pushing $1,000 a square foot, and we have similar views, similar amenities, and similar finishes, and we're $500. So I still see the South Loop becoming more mainstream and appreciation continuing.
What about variety of product, and should buyers care about that? I mean, this idea that, high-rise, high-rise, high-rise coming up, or you could say in the West Loop, mid-rise, mid-rise, mid-rise. You both have had stretches of, it seems like, very similar product being built, or maybe not. I don't know what your take is on that, but, it seems like a lot of buyers are purchasing and are going to sell in 5 years. That seems fairly typical. When they do go to sell, there are going to be a lot of other people selling because of how much stuff gets built. How important is it to think about the uniqueness of what it is you're buying for resale and what is getting built? I mean, talk about the variety of product or lack thereof.
Well, I don't want to sound like an advertisement for our XO project, but maybe I do want to sound like an advertisement. But that was what we saw in the marketplace. There's about 15 projects out there being marketed right now in the South Loop. And the high-rises in Central Station, a lot of the product along Wabash and State Street are all kind of square bricks and mortar and windows, and they all kind of look the same. They all kind of have the same amenities and very similar finishes, and depending on how close they are to the lake, depends on what price you're going to pay. And we saw that as an issue, and as a result had an opportunity with a 100,000 square foot site, 2.5 acres on South Prairie, to design something different for that exact reason. We felt like, number one, we like new challenges in our business. We've done about 15 projects in the South Loop, and a lot of them have been very similar, and felt like we wanted to kind of, again, we have a pioneering spirit within our firm and like to do things differently. XO is that. I mean, we have an architecturally significant building. The building's tilt. Lucien Lagrange is an internationally acclaimed architect. He's designed very unique architecture. We've got better amenities, and we have this spa that's a $4 million building that we're building that's an amenity for which, unlike the exercise room that's in most buildings, nicer finishes, and so forth. So I view that as if somebody who is a long-term investor or a long-term buyer of product, they have to look at those things. I mean, the views are really, most people buy because of views, we have found over the years. But there are just so many views, and so that's why we did design XO differently.
All right. Do you want to give your own commercial there?
Sure. I want to talk a little bit about the Thrush philosophy. George Thrush, the founder of our firm, who still is on the board, use the word, contrarian. I mean, when everybody's doing it one way, let's think about doing it another way, which is essentially what Keith said with XO. It's a very unique design, beautiful building. We were building townhomes in the South Loop, in Dearborn Park 2, while Keith was converting loft buildings. The townhome product that we were building at that time was comparable, because it was stick-built, 3-, 4-story, to single-family home infill housing we were doing south of Hyde Park, the first new single-family homes built there in 40 years. We believe we have been in emerging markets for 20 years. And coming into the West Loop, having built the first new construction condominium project in the West Loop, Block X, we felt that a unique design was required. We brought in Papa George Hames, and boy, we built 2 elevator buildings. That was a big deal. 2 out of the 5 buildings had elevators, and they were only 4 stories. The others were walk-ups. We had a row of 12 townhomes with 4 penthouses on top. We tend to look at the market, what the market need is, and rather than build one product type or one comparable product type, we like to bring multiple price points and multiple housing designs within one development. Block Y, interesting example. Conversion of a loft building, new construction townhomes, new construction loft condominium building, and adding 4 stories on an existing loft building on a 4.5-acre site with a huge courtyard in between. We've always brought landscaping into our designs. Well, as the zoning issues and the price per foot that sellers are obtaining from developers increases, some of these luxuries are in design, the flexibility of the design evaporate. Because you can't make economic sense on a site that you could at one point sell townhomes on. Now you have to sell a mid-rise or a high-rise in order to justify the acquisition price, or move into another neighborhood and do what you like doing. So when you talk about that contrarian view, we were seeking a site when everybody else was, when townhomes and loft buildings were getting difficult to build and mid-rises were coming along. We thought, well, let's try going vertical in West Loop, and the only place we could do it is along the highway, and we took a shot, building a vertical building on the highway.
Was that because of neighborhood restrictions? I mean, you don't see too many high-rises in the West Loop. They've been resistant to...
There are no high-rises in the West Loop west of Halsted Street. So
Skybridge is on Halsted, but it's on the edge.
Right.
Yeah, on the east side of Halsted, yeah.
So, but, again, because the West Loop has expanded, you have RD 529, which is a huge building, other, high-rises going up east of the Kennedy. But even today, as we discussed earlier, there are zoning implications within the West Loop that are going to keep buildings relatively small. I'd like to see a variety. Buzz Ruttenberg did a great job, rather than building high density on a site, almost a 3-acre site, he came back with townhomes. Because the neighborhood and the politics, the neighborhood groups, the aldermen, the Department of Planning, and the community are asking for more family-oriented housing. Let's reduce the number of condos and get more townhomes, more single families. Well, there's a bit of a rub there between the sellers of land, who might be able to get $160 a foot for a FAR of 5, which allows you to basically build 5 to 8 stories, compared to a 12 FAR in the South Loop. I mean, you can't necessarily justify building townhomes or single families. So it's an interesting dynamic.